So, I heard we were supposed to start wearing masks, so I made a mask. I also made a mask because what we were talking about today, in connection with the play Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King, we are talking about today Greek plays. And Greek plays were rather well known for using masks. The Greeks, I'm going to take this out because it gets creepy. The Greeks invented drama, so far as we know. They have the earliest examples of drama. It seems a bit weird, like movies, dramas, those are intuitive, right? You're basically showing what real life is like. But if you think about it, when you're in conversations with your friends, it's not very often that you actually get up and act things out as they once happened. Just in general, there are no indications of plays prior to the Greeks. And the Greeks had plays that were not very similar to what we would consider today. One of the main features, first of all, was, as I said, masks. The Greeks used masks like this on stage. And they did this. They used the masks. Everybody wore these. All the main characters, also the chorus. Everybody wore these because these took place in giant amphitheaters. If you guys remember in the reading that we had at the start, it looked at different sort of stage setups. The Greek plays were like all circular on one side, but of course they had no sound equipment. They had no microphones, they had no speakers. And they had no cameras, so there was no way of viewing people up close. So the masks helped people tell who was who from quite a long distance away, and also indicated how they were feeling, what they were doing, that sort of thing. You had, of course, the circular play setup, as I said. One of the other features that helped with these long things, and I've tried to indicate this on the mask, is that the mouthpiece was shaped in some ways conically, like a megaphone. And that was, again, to help project the voice out so that people could hear it even in the very back of the theater. Greek plays were what we would ordinarily consider one-act plays, though they weren't exactly short. What we mean by one-act plays in this context is that everything takes place within the given time, within the given space. Things never veer outside of that space. You think of, say, the movie Phone Booth, which more or less takes place in one location. I'm trying to think, I'm blanking at the moment, 16 Blocks was a Bruce Willis movie where everything took place in real time. The movie is like 2 hours long, and it only takes 2 hours in the world of the movie. Those were Greek plays. You stayed in one place. The amount of time done was the amount. You did not do scene jumps. You did not go from one place to another. Again, you think this is not necessarily a natural concept. You don't naturally think that you jump in a time and place. So that's what Greek plays were like. They tended also to be very poetic. In some ways, they were more similar to songs or ballads. They were written in poetry, which we don't get, of course, in the translation. And a lot of times, especially the role of the chorus was sung. The chorus would be a collection of people all on the outside who kind of served as a narrator. They would be, say, a group of 20 or 30 people, also wearing masks, who would be giving out a long narration about the nature of what was going on and just sort of general commentary. In the case of Oedipus the King, the play that we're looking at, a lot of times they're providing commentary like, my goodness, this is mysterious. I wonder what the solution to this is. Or, oh my word, how tragic. And yet, you know, this would not have happened if he hadn't been like this. Greek tragedy. Greek tragedy is one of the main dramas of thing. Again, part of this thing, if you've seen stuff of tragedies, you've often seen, like, say, the tragic masks, which has this sort of frown face set up to it. They're very classic. Greek tragedies tend to focus on a person who is otherwise honorable, who is otherwise a great person, but just has this one thing going on with him, a fatal flaw that just makes him not good. And oftentimes, especially in Greek plays, it's that he tries to be too awesome. He tries to be too awesome. Sometimes, you know, you try to outsmart fate. That's your thing. A lot of times, also, you're trying to put yourself above the gods. This is a very common thing in Greek mythology. Somebody thinks they're better than the gods, and the gods come like, oh, really now? And they do the smackdown. That is the concept known as hubris. You think you get way too proud. You get way too all up in yourself. And that causes things to interfere. Oedipus Rex is somewhat of a different story. Oedipus Rex is a tragedy, some might even call it a horror, and it is possibly one of the most influential plays in the Western civilization, in part because it's a foundation that was used, that Sigmund Freud used in developing his own psychology. It's very interesting. People, of course, say, why literature? Why poetry? What is the point of this? Why do we care? Why we care is that oftentimes literature shapes the way we think and indicates the way we think. And this is what Freud was doing. Freud said part of the appeal of Oedipus Rex is that Oedipus Rex indicates the greatest possible sin, the most sinful thing one could ever do. And he said it indicates what we all secretly want to do. Now, the second part of that, a bit more skeptical of. But nonetheless, that was Freud's view on things. What the story of Oedipus Rex is. There is the King Oedipus. The King Oedipus is ruling the city of Thebes. He became the king. When he arrived at the city, he found the previous king had been killed, and that they had all been stuck there because of this thing with the Sphinx, where you need to solve the riddle of the Sphinx. Oedipus Rex, being the traveler, goes, he solved the riddle of the Sphinx killed itself, and he marries the queen, who presumably is a good-looking woman, because they have a very loving relationship. Oedipus the king. Now, here's the problem in Thebes. The problem in Thebes is there's a plague. And when you're in ancient Greek world, this means that somebody has angered the gods. Say, if the coronavirus was running around in Greek times, they would have said, uh-oh, we've angered God somehow. And some people are saying that. Some people do still say that. So you see, this is kind of a thought that's still around. Again, plays shape the way we think. Plays, works of literature shape the reason why our world is the way it is. So there's a plague. And they figure out it's because they never discovered who killed the old king. So Oedipus is like, all right, well, we need to figure out who killed the old king. Let's consult this blind prophet that we have in the city, see what he has to say. The blind prophet says, wow, you killed the blind prophet is very reluctant. He says, don't press me on this. Don't ask. Don't tell me. Don't make me tell you. And Oedipus is like, you must tell me or I will kill you. And the prophet's like, well, fine, you killed the king. And Oedipus says, that's ridiculous. I've never killed anyone. I only killed one person ever, just a sort of a random person I stopped who harassed me on the way to Thebes. Obviously, this is going in a certain direction. So he thinks this is all plot by his brother that has said this. His wife, the queen, comes in and is like, okay, everybody calm down. He's like, and she says, you can't really pay attention to what prophets tell you. Prophets are not too reliable. Anyway, all thing goes along. You guys can read the play for yourself. The fatal flaw of Oedipus is partly that he has to find out. He has to know certain things. And also that he thinks he can escape fate. He thinks he's better than that. He thought he could escape the prophesied fate, that he would kill his father and marry his mother. And of course, in the course of the play, that's exactly what he finds out, that he killed the king, who was his father, in that procession, and he married his mother, who was the queen of Thebes. What Freud said this meant is that everybody secretly wants to murder the father and marry the mother. This is also what he said about Hamlet. We're going to be looking at Hamlet, and Freud said there was something similar going on there. Freud's particular thing, they call it an Oedipus Complex. If you've always really wanted to marry your mother, that's what they call an Oedipus Complex. So you see, this has many different repercussions all across our society. There is an argument that Oedipus is actually very much a good king, that he's trying to find all this out, that he's punishing himself because he wants to solve the problem of the city. But there's more to it than that. He's very proudful. He thinks he can solve this whole situation on his own. It's very interesting. But the overall function of the play, and this is perhaps something important that I can definitely say, the overall point of the play is that you should not call anyone happy until they're dead. There's like you might say said that Oedipus was an immensely wonderful person, that he got it all figured out, that he was living the high life. He was king. He was married to a beautiful wife. He was ruler of an entire city. He had children. Wonderful, excellent things set up for him. Just absolutely a happy life. And then he found this out, and now he is the most wretched of men. So, like, you can never say that somebody is happy. You cannot say that Bill Gates is happy or Tom Hanks is happy until they're dead. Only then can you say, you know what? Yes, he had a happy life and he died fulfilled. That is the only time. And this is what they say about Oedipus. And it is, say, something that people do still consider to be true today. You can't really say that a person had a happy life until they've died. Again, former literature, old literature, has a real implication of how we view things. After this play, we will be looking at Hamlet. We are going to have to move fairly quickly through the remaining plays that we have because we don't have a whole lot of time left in the school year.